Obrigado, everyone. Thank you so much. So, are you just having a little wow moment here, Wyclef?
It was beautiful with all the lights.
That's beautiful.
Yo, make some noise! I see a crowd.
I'm glad he did that because I couldn't have pulled that off even a tiny little bit. Wyclef, we're going to talk about how technology can potentially save the music industry, and something I've seen this year that technology has really helped with, I think, is how music seems to have got so much more global. You've had the likes of Despacito and Latin pop come through. You've had African and Ghanaian and Nigerian music become more popular, even Korean and Japanese pop. Everything kind of coming together. And I think this is down to streaming and people having access to more music in that way. You as a musician, are you feeling like it's becoming more of a global sound at the moment? Are you riffing off those kind of different cultures?
Well, I mean, for me, right, it starts off as a young Fuji. You know what I mean? I'm in the hood, 17-year-old, you know what I mean, eating chicken wings, right? And I have an epiphany. I want to do an album called The Score. Now, you have all these big studios with SSLs and Neves, and I'm like, no, we're going to do this album in my basement. So the idea for me I've always saw it in the beginning with the idea of you don't need all that equipment if you have the orchestra in your mind. I learned that from sitting in the studio with Michael Jackson. So for me, you know, we're in an era now, you can open up your laptop and from there, all of the software conversion is there. And I think this is much faster. It allows you to create much quicker. So for me, we embrace it as it moves forward, definitely.
I know you taking inspiration from different things in a kind of interconnected world that we find ourselves in?
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't play. So where I come from, just say, whether if it's Santana Maria, writing that, or Hips Don't Lie for Shakira, or being in Nigeria for a while, like before the explosion. I mean, I was with Two-Face, D'banj, and those guys, you know what I mean? So like me, first of all, like I'm a fan of the culture, right? So being a fan of the culture means we embrace all forms of music right from the gate. And that's the Fugees is short for refugees. And the idea is the globalization has always been there, but what tech has allowed us to do now is basically see how much closer we are than apart.
And Martin, I mean, Martin is just 21, by the way, and had...
Baby face.
It's incredible.
Compared to us.
Baby face.
I think when I was 21, all I'd really managed to achieve with my life is about losing my virginity, and I didn't even do that very well. And Martin is the #1 DJ in the world. What you've kind of grown up, naturalized to social media and to digital culture. What has that kind of given you, you know, right from day one?
Well, for me, technology is a big part of my life. I started with the guitar, writing songs on the guitar, and then I always had to grab the guitar when I wanted to present a song to someone. And then I did some research on the internet, found this software program that I could produce my own music with, and I just started putting melodies, chord progressions into the computer, adding kick drums to it, and just having fun. And for me, I wouldn't be sitting here if I couldn't put my ideas in the computer. So for me, technology definitely played a big part in the start for me. Of course, right now, I love recording real instruments, but yeah, no. And also for me, social media is definitely a way that I can connect with the fans. And I also feel like it makes the world way smaller. Like you can be, how I say it, I feel like for me, whenever I'm here, it's not only the people here who can share this experience. It's the whole world who can watch that. And for me, I'm very, very happy that technology exists.
Yeah, and Wyclef, and slightly less so you, Martin. You know, you've made millions of dollars by selling millions of CDs and latterly downloads, and now we're moving to a more sort of streaming kind of era. Is it difficult now for artists to make as much revenue from this era? Are we kind of do more things need to change about streaming to help artists fund their work?
Well, I mean, from the gate, I'm from the hood, so I was a hustler, right? So I knew that in order to survive, I had to create copyrights, right? So for me, whether if you're listening to, Carla, DJ Khalid, Wild Thoughts, Rihanna, that's still Wyclef, right? So at the end of the day, I always urge artists, the most important thing is to create, you know? So what happens is if you're a creator, you don't complain, right? So a creator, you're constantly creating, you're constantly evolve. So when I was coming up in the 90s, I always was, they used to like laugh at the Fugees. I would show up, it'd be a hip hop concert, they have like a microphone and a turntable, and we show up with guitars and drums, and they would laugh, but I'd be like, yo, the only thing that's gonna last is creation. So for me, there are a lot of artists from my era now that finds it hard to survive. Now, what my brother was saying, I'm gonna nickname you Babyface. To what my brother was saying, right? Technology, to embrace it, you can't just have somebody else posting it up for you because the technology is as if it's a real person. So what I always encourage artists from my era to do is not only embrace the technology, but fully understand it. This is very, very important as we move forward into the future.
I mean, Hans-Holger, in your work with Deezer, do you kind of come across some of these questions about what's the appropriate amount to give in royalties to artists? How do the streaming services help sustain careers rather than just kind of transmit them?
Yeah, I think you can see nowadays, which is a bit different maybe to the situation a couple of years ago, that with streaming, the music industry is growing again. I mean, it's the first time since many, many years that revenues are going up. And in the music field, we pay the majority of our revenues back to artists, labels, and the creators of music. So I think the fact that streaming is helping the music industry to fund the business is very obvious, and we're just at the very beginning. I mean, it's a tiny market when you look at streaming nowadays. It's less than 5% of the population who streams, and it will be over 20-30% of the population. It's a great opportunity.
Do you think that more companies can come into this space? I mean, just yesterday, I think we saw that Kanye West applied a sort of patent for something called Yeezy Sound that might be a kind of streaming platform. Do you think we'll start to see artists and other players kind of break away? And can they kind of compete with Spotify, with Apple Music, with Deezer?
I think it's a complex thing to build a business like we have in Deezer. I mean, you have to remember you have 42 million tracks, you have a lot of other kind of features, and you have to create a product which an individual person likes. And to define this kind of, we call it the music DNA of somebody who has a taste which is unique, you don't find it twice, and you have to give them the music from him or from Babyface or from whoever you want to have. But as well songs he never heard before, and all of a sudden he listens to and likes. That's complex. So yes, there may be new innovations, and there's a lot of innovations going on. But clearly, in terms of the players, I mean, it's the four big ones like Deezer, Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. But to be seen. I mean, we have to be very innovative, and as I said, it's just the beginning of a great opportunity.
And something we're seeing is the importance of playlists. And Martin, we were talking before about how you have quite a kind of vault of tracks, but you're not really planning to release them in an album form. You kind of trickle out songs one by one. Are both of you kind of excited by the idea of the album maybe falling by the wayside as a format?
For me, I've been releasing single, and I feel like streaming made it possible to release more music in a shorter time notice. And for me, it worked great. The only thing is, for me, if I can, I think I'm speaking for both of us, the amount of unreleased music a producer has on his or her computer, it's crazy. I can release 3 albums right now, but I'm not going to do it because there will be only the attention span of people. It's not like they will listen to the album one time, they'll listen to like 3 or 4 songs, those will be their favorites, and then the attention from the other songs will be, I think...
Are our attention spans getting lower for music as a result of all this?
That's deep. That's deep. What Babyface said. I'm going to go with that, by the way. So you know what's deep is because, I'm conflicted, right? So, for example, I just put out the Carnival 3, right? It's an album. Because I still believe in albums. But guess who's buying the albums? People from 1996, 97. So in order to keep up with Babyface, right? I put out an album a month ago. Next week, I got a mixtape coming out. And this is why I love this generation, because when I was coming up, I got over like 1,000 songs that are sitting in a vault. And when I was on Sony as a kid, I didn't understand why I couldn't put a hip hop album out, a jazz album out, a salsa out, singles out all at the same time. So for me, I feel like the canvas is so open to the point where it's not really about no more about putting out an album, right? Because that word has changed now. It's about constantly, months, feeding your fans great music for me. So it's a good space.
Do you think the record labels, traditional, major kind of big record labels, can kind of keep up with that? I mean, I think it's increasingly attractive for artists that, like Martin has done, to leave a major label and actually do everything themselves independently. That then gives you the freedom to put out your salsa album on a Tuesday when you want to put it out.
Because really we're operating from a level of data now, right? Because at the end of the day, I can look at my audience and I'd be like, okay, they thirsting for a mixtape. They want to hear Wyclef rap again. Or they want to hear Wyclef shakes his hips. Literally with the data and analytics, you are in the era now where you can follow the fans and what they want to see real time. So for me, it's not like the fans never wanted that. The fans always wanted that. But what happened is the major establishment used to keep us away from that, you know? Yeah. So what happened, kids like Babyface, they just cracked that code. And now it's almost like, I got to keep up with Babyface. You feel what I'm saying to you?
Is that hard for you?
You feel me?
Yeah.
Huh?
Do you feel like an old man in a young man's industry? I guess that's a no.
Nah, I'm gonna be at the Babyface concert doing handstands. Well, no, what happens is, once again, right, relative to old, right, is at the end of the day, right, whether if a kid is 21 or they're 41, everybody knows the Fugees, right? Even if they know of the Fugees, they still heard of the Fugees. Me and Carlos Santana, we was having this conversation weeks ago before I got the call from DJ Khaled that he would be like, yo, Clef, you know we the best, man. That's how Khaled always starts. Another one, right? He like, yo, I have this idea for your record, Maria Maria. So, and it's so funny, me and Carlos was talking about that. When you do great music, it's gonna find itself in every generation. So when someone is complaining, saying, oh, this is not working, because I look at it like you just a loser. Because at the end of the day, if you're producing content, like I was in the studio with Avicii, and when Avicii is turning on the laptop and we're talking about like great R&B, first thing he's gonna play is Ray Charles. So at the end of the day, you know, age is not a factor when you're talking about great material. So what we got to do is constantly keep producing great material.
What's interesting about that is the likes of Ray Charles came up in an era when there were fewer kind of media outlets and a smaller number of big stars. Do you think that people can get to kind of Ray Charles, Michael Jackson, Prince kind of fame these days, or is it all quite a lot more sort of spread out and people are less focused on individual megastars?
I think you still will have the mainstream and you will find still the superstars. But I think the interesting thing, as you say, is that you unleash for the first time the music when it comes to streaming. I mean, we can tell you exactly where your fans are, what they listen, why, how. You can upload your songs on Deezer and then we give you the data and we can support you, which playlist you have. So I think it's a big revolution going on in terms of how people can consume music, which is great. And what we always tend to forget as well, when we look at our markets, for example, in Latin America, Brazil, Colombia, whatever, for the first time, those people can listen to all the songs they want to do. And I can tell you, their taste is very different when it comes to music. It's very local. In Colombia, it's very religious music, for example. So I think what we have found is a model, you will still have good business, you will still have the superstars, but for the first time in history, every human being can choose his own music and listen to. And there's no label in between, there is no whatever technical issues in between. Is just free choice, which is great.
And can you see from the data that you get the kinds of ways that people's tastes are changing? Are like you say, in certain markets it still remains local, but is it changing quite a lot? Are people opening their ears up to new kinds?
Yeah, I think you can see that it's a bit of a question of age groups, of course, you have, but it's very local in some countries, in particular when you go to Latin America or the emerging markets. You can sense as well, which is interesting, that people love to listen to you two guys, for example, but they love the moment when they get a recommendation from us, which they never heard before, but they say, wow, that's a tone I love, or it can be even one of those kind of productions you haven't released. So I think it's much more flexible in that respect, and they cater to local taste and to the individual people.
Yeah.
And data can do this, and that's the reason why I think the combination of creative people and what we can do is a great opportunity for the industry.
Guys, do you yourselves feel like you have a more cosmopolitan taste these days as a result of the kind of ways we listen to music?
For me, good music is good music. A good song is a good song. It's not I'm listening to one genre. I listen to 10 different genres. I feel like the streaming platforms, for me, I will put it on like the explore mode, and I'll just be doing something in my house, and I'll be like, oh, this song is sick. I add it to my playlist, and then I get inspired.
And do you find like an algorithm can give you good tips?
Yeah, because it looks at what we listen to, and it suggests stuff in the genre. But you can also have all these playlists, new music. You can literally be super quick, up to date with what's hot, with what people are listening to, and for me, I love it, and I also like to find new music. There's no better feeling to me than finding a song that you haven't heard before and being able to connect with the song.
Yeah, that's the best one.
And so we've got a couple of minutes left. I just want to round up by asking each of you, we've talked about the beautiful things that technology is bringing to music. What for each of you are things that you feel like technology hasn't yet solved for you in music, whether it's making it, whether it's listening to it? What are the dreams you have in music that you think could be fulfilled by new innovations?
Cool. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
You start, I start.
Yeah. I'm a start, right? But I'm a hustler, so I can't give you too much information because I'm trying to.
We're not going to steal your
Haitian
intellectual
Jay-Z.
property, Wyclef.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
No, but on the real, I feel I love the streaming services, and I think for me as an audio engineer who grew up listening to like Pink Floyd, The Wall, I think that as music keeps innovative and it keeps getting better, I want to start hearing it in a more natural form, like we record it in the studio. So what happens is everything is coming through a stereo bus. But when we put on the headphone at times, when we listen to Pink Floyd, The Wall, we get that binaural experience. So as the future moves forward, I would like to feel an audio experience that's intimate, like Babyface is right there with me in the room.
Holding you.
As it's being created. So we're not talking about a 5.1 or a 7.1 experience. We're talking about an infinite binaural experience. So I want to see more experiment with the stems, so when Wyclef does a track, Babyface does a track, what happens if Deezer gets the stems, for example, and it spits out a different algorithm, and when you put on your headphone, the experience is different. So that's some of the stuff that I'm looking forward to hearing in different platforms in the future.
Martin?
For me, I'm really happy with how the platforms are. The only one thing is the older music, it's produced differently, and right now music is very much compressed. So for me, it would be great to not ever have to touch the volume button again, because there's a lot of songs with a lot of sound difference in there.
So you're finding there's restriction in your creativity almost just because you have to cram in.
From like a lot of music right now, they just want it to be loud, as loud as possible, which takes away the song doesn't breathe.
The dynamics.
Yeah, the dynamic. And there's the only thing is if I listen to like for example a playlist and I hear a song which has a lot of dynamic and then the next song is super compressed, it doesn't match yet in my head.
And Hans-Holger?
Yeah, that one we can solve. I think for me and for us, we have a kind of product called flow, and we're always looking for this moment of flow, which means you come to the service, you push a button, you listen to a song, and the song touches your heart. And then you realize this is exactly the song this person wanted to listen to at this very moment, which you're trying to find. You can do with data, you do it with artificial intelligence. Once we have this one, then I think music experience will be perfect.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Huge round of applause. These three incredible guys.